Let's get into it today, and let's take a look at whether or not we're going to see a crash into the weekend. We'll break it all down for you. Let's just jump right in. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Salt Lending. You guys can go over and start to play some strategies here around utilizing your digital assets to create liquidity. And this could offer a lot of things. The nice thing about Salt is they have this thing called Salt Shield, which is a no liquidation solution. So very effective if you're looking at this. And most people, in reality, if you're going to go out and take a loan on your Bitcoin or on your Ethereum, you're probably going to only go at a 30% or maybe even a 50% TVL, and that is, or LTV, loan to value. And that is going to benefit you. So take a look at that. It may be able to extend you into being able to buy a dip if you are already all the way in on where this is going. So check out Salt Lending. We'll leave a link down below. All right, I want to bring in Mr. Evan Aldo to talk about some trades today. We'll be getting into Bitcoin, ETH, BNB. How are you, Evan?
I'm doing fantastic, Paul. I will stay fantastic if we can hold 3,700 for ETH. And so far we've seen a little jump, but I will be doing worse if we lose if we lose 3,700 for ETH.
Hey, listen, there's a few people that are still very bullish right now. Here is Mr. Tom Lee coming in. I understand why markets are wary. We've got a lot of tensions right now with this global trade issue, major deleveraging last week that we saw, and then the fears on private credit. October is normally the explosion month, but we're not necessarily seeing that. So sentiment is definitely negative. We're seeing that in a lot of the markets. Only 22% of fund managers right now are beating benchmark. So that means everybody's chasing to try to get into this. But his main thing, buy the dip, guys, right there. That's it. Look for opportunities, buy the dip. Now, you got to think about it. This is Tom Lee, which right now, Tom is like a super investor. I mean, he's one of the top 5 on Wall Street. He is the guy that called Bitcoin very early, and he is also the guy that has gone all in on Ethereum within that. If you look at what people are doing right now in terms of what this looks like for either October or October, right there it is. October is 49 and October at 50. So we are at a split decision on whether or not we play this out. What's your opinion right now? Up for October? Do we get a green month or do we close red?
Call me crazy, but I still think we may have potential of Bitcoin hitting 130K by the end of this month or early November. So there's still potential. That's if you hold these areas right now and you have a good jump here. If you don't, then we may be in some serious trouble. So
if you go to the Bitcoin chart right now, Evan, and you look at that position, because this is one that I know Ben Cowan has talked about, this 100 to 102 range, this 50-week moving average, it has to be able to be broken for a period of time. What are you showing right now in terms of Bitcoin, and where would be your signal of no return versus a signal that we are back?
So if we look at the chart right here for Bitcoin, the big thing I'm looking at, the 4 hours big right here, hit the big point, about 103. That's a big pocket right there. Nice jump on it, which is good. To answer your question, I think if you lose this barrier right here, 100, and you lose it for more than, a day or two or even a few hours probably, then your bull run is most likely over, unfortunately. However, there's a lot of good things that we're seeing right now. You see a bullish div on the 4 hour right here, momentum waves coming up, money flow coming up as well, which looks good. Last time this happened was back at the end of September, and you had, as you can see here, 16% jump. If we do the same thing, you likely can get up to 120K towards the end of October. If you could continue forward, your next big place where these lines intersect, huge area, 130K. This would be my absolute most bullish indication by the end of the month, 130K. And then that could be your bull market peak. Maybe you could extend into November and hit like 140. At this point, I'm not really thinking you're going to get all the way up to 150, but we'll see what happens. Let's focus on getting up to 130 sometime by early November. And I think we'll be in a very good position if that does happen. So, yeah.
All right. So you're still leaning somewhat positive on Bitcoin.
Yes.
If you look at the amount of positions right now, we just put this poll out just a little bit ago. We'll probably revisit this to see where it holds, but how much of your investing capital is positioned in the market? Primarily, I'm assuming this could be crypto primarily. But it looks like all in at about 56%. That's crazy. 60 to 80% at 23. So we're standing at, what is that? Almost, almost 80%. Right at 80% right now at 60% or more in the crypto market. Is that where your bags are right now? What are you setting on in terms of?
I'm all in right now. Well, it depends how you define all in. I mean, I'm not every penny of reserves and money in real estate and other things, but yeah, I mean, I'm like 70, 80% of like a lot of I mean, highly in ETH, especially since ETH has done so well against altcoins. But yeah, if you look at my portfolio, you'd think, yeah, this guy's high risk. Yeah.
High risk. All right, so we got a couple of things that are happening. President Trump calls his 100% tariff on China not sustainable. This, of course, has been back and forth. So he's going head to head with China in terms of negotiation tactics. And there are some other things that could play into this. Even Scott Besson mentioned this the other day, and that is this push on what other kind of pain points could they impose on China. And part of it was maybe even delisting over on the NASDAQ. But China is now betting it can win a trade war and is playing hardball with Trump. And I think this is the issue. My understanding is we're going to get a meeting between Xi and Trump. If we see this come off, do you think this is more important than the government shutdown stopping or China and Trump playing nice?
Government shutdown is big because I think that ends the gold and silver rally, puts more money into Bitcoin. This is also very big as well. They're both huge, I would say. It's hard to kind of pinpoint what's more important. They're both very important, though. I think we need both of them to kind of happen to get this show on the road, I would say, to get things to keep moving forward.
If we get the government shutdown resolved and it does happen, you feel that gold and silver move is over, at least in the short term, and it begins to hold, or do you think we'll see a significant market correction there on gold and silver?
I think gold and silver will start to bleed against Bitcoin and Ethereum as soon as the government shutdown ends. I do think sometime between now and early 26, you will see, for gold, at least a 20-30% correction. I'm eyeing 3,300 would be a big place to get in on gold, I think.
I want to go into this clip because this gets into really where the progress is going. And this is all about China because obviously this is a big factor here. But let's go to SOT 1.
Last weekend when the president said everything's going to be fine, Scott Bessent really chafed at that journal piece that said that they're just watching the stock market and that they base their comments on what's going on in the stock market. And again, you could say that once again, the president today said, no, it's not. Those big tariffs are not going to last. Should we believe that, or should we attribute it to watching what the market's doing? Is there real progress?
We don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen in this call. The fact of the call itself, I think, is notable, which is why I'm calling it into you guys. But we don't know what the content of that call is going to be. And obviously, Bessent did bristle at that piece. The U.S. side, of course, doesn't want it to look as if the Chinese side has more leverage in this negotiation than they do. And that's sort of what that Wall Street Journal piece was suggesting earlier this week. So it is very hard to say. And I think ultimately no large breakthrough can come until the two top leaders meet face to face.
All right, so no large breakthroughs. I would agree with that, and I think that's what we're waiting on, is to see that coming in on between Trump and Xi coming on whether or not they're going to come to a deal. 100% tariffs on China in effect by November 1st. Nobody believes this is going to happen. This is on Polymarket. So you can kind of see right there, it's a 9% chance right now. Why, if no one believes this is going to happen, do you feel we're seeing such an impact on the markets? Is there a subversive thought that Trump's going to try something else? What do you think it is right now, Evan?
The markets, they always, have their angrier points. They always have, money moving around. We talked about, the Binance thing and all that. That invoked some fear, especially for altcoins. I don't know. Maybe this could be. This would kind of support what I was saying for the big jump up. Maybe people are just overreacting a lot. Maybe given that we're in quarter four in the 4-year cycle, people are getting out a little bit too early. Maybe it could be that fear. So I would remain optimistic. Once this does, kind of end with Trump and some good things hopefully come out and government shutdown ends, you could be off to the races.
We had a call yesterday, or a show yesterday with Jamie Coates from Real Vision, and he was kind of talking about this whole issue of repositioning into the major L1s and or Bitcoin. Basically is what it boiled down to. And if you look at all of the investments right now on digital assets in general, I think a lot of people are spread fairly thin in terms of diversification. How are you playing your portfolio? Are you stacking at the top side of the high value assets right now, or are you still taking some risk down on the lower value assets?
I bought a lot of the lower cap stuff like a year to 2 years ago. I've had as much as I want of it so far. On this dip, I bought ETH, which hit off of a big area, 3,700. So I'm betting pretty big on ETH right now. So I've stacked some more ETH. And I'm planning, to be honest with you, and kind of getting out of that. Hopefully if ETH goes above 5,000, hopefully somewhere between 5,800 to 7,300. So that's kind of how I'm playing it right now for a nice ETH trade. If you want to be riskier, yeah, altcoins have hit big areas, the big L1s. So I do think that a slightly riskier play could be a big thing for the L1s right here. But obviously, as always, that's going to be riskier than ETH. I think right now, when you look at the ETH Bitcoin evaluation, especially with QT ending really soon, that could strengthen the L1 argument too. And when you look at ETH Bitcoin evaluation, this is one of the rare times where I would even say it's like maybe slightly less risk to get into ETH right now. I know some of the maxis will hate me for that, but just right now, ETH looks real good against Bitcoin, I would say.
I'm looking at the ETH Bitcoin chart. I mean, it has been trading down, obviously, but now it's positioned. However, it has flatlined. This is on the weekly, but if, to your point, if you go to the daily, somewhat sideways right now, at least after coming up some. Well, okay, so what are the key indicators right now on Ethereum? What are you watching? Where would you enter or exit if you were trying to make a trade on ETH right now?
So it's kind of similar to kind of what we're seeing on Bitcoin, just like the Bitcoin chart. You're making a higher low so far. You have a very nice, you could see these waves coming up, money flow coming up in the four hour, very nice bullish divergence forming. Your textbook standard TA would tell you that if you can break above like 4,000, you should be on your way to 4,600, which would be huge. So what you could do here, low risk, high reward trade, something along these lines, all the way up to, maybe this high October 7th, that's a risk reward ratio above 2 to 1. So very low risk, very high reward. Something like this would work very well. And the thing here is like, I do think if you were to come down and like lose this area and lose 3,400 and bounce around like this for a few days, you're probably dead in the water. Your bull run's probably over. I think we really need to hold here. So I think very low risk, high reward. Try to buy the dip here, not financial advice, but what I'm doing, buy the dip here and try to run this up. If we can get another wave on the daily that brings us up quite a bit, do something like this again, run us up to 4,700, then you break above 5,000, get up to this point for potentially a cycle peak, early November, 5,700, start to scale out there, and then best case scenario into the end of the year, maybe even early January, who knows, 7,300, so something like this. So yeah, that's the big area I'm looking at. The thing I'm waiting for, and I'll show you real quick here, this is a nice indicator that I've been waiting for a while on ETH. The 3-week trigger wave, well, kind of anchor wave, trigger wave to this wave over here. This VWAP, as the VWAP comes down, you're going to see a red dot here on this 3-week. This could happen anywhere from a week or two to the end of the year, even January. And that would be kind of the market cycle peak where I would say is a good place to really get out, similar to kind of up here on that area. Nice place, December of 21 right there. So that area, and you could even test it back. This high wave right here, this was January of 2018. It's kind of the red dot above the zero line here, anchor trigger wave in quarter 4. You haven't seen it yet, but you're probably going to see it by early January at the latest.
Well, and that'll be a key indicator, I think, as we look into ETH. And okay, so beyond Ethereum, Let's stay in the layer ones for now. Let's look at BNB because there's been a lot of people that have really won big time on BNB. Where are you today if you're looking at BNB? Would you take this as an asset, or would you stand on the sidelines on this one?
BNB, I mean, it's like hitting a big point here. I think it could be, I mean, there's going to be less volatility in a lot of other things, but hitting that big point around 1,000, I think common sense would tell you, this is just basic TA. If you can hold 1,000, you've got a good shot of jumping up to like 1,500 into the end of the year, November, December, if the market continues good. I would say absolute best case scenario would probably be 2,000, but I think that's a little bit too optimistic. I'd be looking at 1,500. So, following this general trajectory into the end of the year, I think 1,500 is a pretty good goal. Okay. I mean, some alts can potentially double or triple in that amount of time. This is, we're towards the end of the cycle here, but I think 1,500 you definitely could see.
BNB trading at around 1,000 now and down 4 days in a row also off of that last week liquidation that we saw. And a lot of people, kind of looking at Binance in a different format. Let's jump over to Solana and compare. If you were looking at Solana today, which is under 200, that's been a window that people have been looking at on Sol. How would you play Solana right now as it's trading at 182 as we record?
Solana's promising, I'll say that. As long as you could hold this area, 187, you're below it right now, but I think we could easily wick up like we did, over here in early October, kind of what you've been seeing. Higher low right here, very similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if you can kind of break above 188, that big place, maintain, have this bull div play out, you got a good shot of potentially early November, end of this month, hitting this big point 270, which is what I would be looking at, some nice trajectory like that. So there is that possibility. If you look at your 2-day here, a nice trigger wave forming. The last time this formed, you saw a nice trajectory for a bit, and this would bring us out into early January at that marker. I know you've talked about 300, so I don't think you're going to get all the way up to 400, but I think 300 or maybe high threes is doable into later this year. So I do like Solana overall still. So yeah.
So Solana, okay, so let's talk about that and go back to kind of our big three. You've got Ethereum, you've got Solana, you've got Avalanche in the mix. We'll even put SWI in there because SWI, of course, is also taking a fairly big hit. Where would you stay right now through this next leg? Would you rotate out of any of those right now in terms of those big L1s?
I would say stay. I mean, yeah, it's diversification. We don't know exactly which one's going to do the best. Theoretically, if the Fed ends QT this month, which may happen, the lower caps that you mentioned, like SWI, would probably do the best. But, we don't exactly know when that's going to happen. So I think diversification would be the biggest thing here. Like all those ones you mentioned, definitely would do well. I mean, I think that, at this point, like, sure, if you're holding garbage like meme coins, stuff like that, that's very high risk. Sure, sell it for tax loss harvesting, move it into something safer. That makes the most logical sense. But I think most people kind of would already guess that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How would you, in this kind of situation where you've got an opportunity to take a little bit of a tax loss, here we are, Q3, Q4, rolling into as we get into November. This would be some of the timing in which you might take a look at some of those. Is this the time that you would do it? Because even if you just took a tax loss and rebought it, if you were saying, hey, I think we're going to go up from here, but I want to take this tax loss and then rebuy because there's no wash. So you'd be back in the asset and still have the tax loss benefit within that. Would that be a strategy you might deploy, or would you go into dry powder and wait and see on the sidelines and try to redeploy that into another major, asset? What are your thoughts?
I think the most logical thing, just sell and buy back and just take the tax. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be, because a lot of things are going to happen potentially quickly and you could have quick recoveries. So, trying to wait for another dip, it depends. Like if you're holding something, that's bled against all the coins you just mentioned, just keeps going down and down, maybe take the tax loss harvest and convert it into something that's a little bit more promising, a higher cap like ETH, Solana, something like that. But if you're holding, I guess Solana and you happen to be down with it, which a lot of people probably aren't even down with a lot of the ones we mentioned. I mean, just sell it for the tax harvest, buy back, and I mean, if it goes lower, you could do the same thing again, I think, right? You could just get even more of a tax loss harvest. So you did it again.
Well, you could, yeah. If you took another one on the same asset that you would take one now. I mean, it's kind of a no loss if you believe in the asset. That's the key. All right, guys. There's a lot happening right here in the market. Again, you should check out Evan's channel. I'll drop a link down below. Make sure and check out Evan Aldo over on YouTube. Evan, it was good having you on the show again today. Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Always honored to be on. Thanks so much, Paul.
You bet. All right, you guys, get in on the Diamond Circle. It's a great way to get additional content from us. I put out an email every week that kind of talks about the direction of this, where we are going, what are the opportunities that play into all of where the market conditions are. And you can do that for free, so just use the link down below. Hit me out there on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show. All right, my man. We good?
Yep.
All right. So ETH is the one, man. You are all in on Ethereum.